Do any of you have any questions or comments that you'd like to throw at me? I'll try and answer them if I can. If not, no. Hello.
One moment, please. I'm just going to bring this over so everyone can hear us in the other
she's doing her Kilroy bit.
Henry Stewart,
Yeah.
Happy Company. Are you familiar with his work at all? Well, he made an observation, which is that most people do their best work. If you look back at your own life and think, when did you do your most productive work, your most creative work? There's usually an association. You were at your happiest as well.
Right.
So he says that the role of a manager, therefore, is in some ways little more than to provide an environment where people are happy. In other words, if you can support them and provide an environment where people feel relaxed and self-motivated, his argument is that they will self-motivate, they will come up with problems to solve, they will push the boundaries, they will actually be very engaged and very productive.
Yeah.
But it kind of contrasts with the kind of control aspect that you're putting on it. I just wondered if you could comment on that.
I would love to be able to think in a lovely, happy world that members of staff are self-motivating, that they're happy, and that they want all of those things. But when you sit on the HR side of things sometimes, and you see employees who are not performing, who are unhappy, either because they don't believe in the business so much, or they don't believe in their manager, or they're having a bad time about something, or they're being overmanaged. When the HR side of it kicks in, you think, no, it's not as simple as that. And there are employees who will work for you that just want a job. They don't want to engage with you. They just want to do their job and go home. And we might want to think that all of our employees are happy, and we might want all of those things, but the reality is that some people don't want that. They just want to do a good job and they've got something more important. So if that's the case, we need to be able to balance both of them. When you think about McGregor's theory X and theory Y of management as well, you know, theory Y says to us that employees are naturally self-motivated, that they are people who want to work and they are to be trusted. Theory X says that people aren't to be trusted, that they will take the piss and they're not going to perform and they will lie. And these things happen, you get the best of both worlds. I think there's a sense of a dream side of things to what he's saying. And I just don't think that that's the reality. I think sometimes you've got to be a bit more robust, rightly or wrongly. And I suppose seeing both sides of it and working in HR and seeing what can come through the door, it does make you, I suppose, healthily sceptical and cynical, maybe. Any other questions at all? Hey. Oh, Kilroy Silk moment.
I was just wondering, is there an ideal number of people that a manager should manage? Is it every company has its sort of metrics, 8 or 6 or something like that? Is there an ideal?
So. No, I don't think so. I think you can get people who manage large teams, and that manager, when the team gets to a certain size, they then employ managers beneath them to then manage smaller groups, and that's where you start to get tiers of management, like middle management, and that's where the organisation starts to get tall. And if that's the case, then that can work quite well, in which case that original manager often gets quite divorced from that extra layer of management, extra layer of workforce, and they only engage with the managers themselves. And I suppose that's sometimes where you get the more senior management, and ultimately where maybe leadership is born. But when it comes to leadership, you need to ask yourself, is leadership essential for your business, or is good management enough? Because often the distinctions between leadership and management get blurred. So we need to be thinking about what's appropriate for a business. They're both very healthy, and if you can get them, that's great. But often you can get leaders that are out there that are quite out there and radical with their thinking, but there's no processes underneath, and that's where the management side of it comes in. But I don't think there is an optimum number. Perhaps if you had a small team, then it may be that your manager is too close for some people, and they think, no, I'd rather work in a big team where I'm more anonymous, and they would prefer that. So there's a two-sided thing to it. Okay? Anyone else? Hello. Oh, I thought we were going to look at you. Hey.
Hi, Denise O'Leary, Purple Marketing. What would you say is the biggest challenge for owner-managed businesses in terms of selling their services?
Of selling their services? I'd probably say, from my experience of dealing with them, is the actual concept of getting on the phone and calling somebody. It's that initial pick up and dial. And what they will do is they would rather email somebody first. And I fight battles with people who are selling with this all the time, because you get people who do lots and lots of direct mail campaigns. But as much as they might work, we need to be able to understand that if you just blanket mail someone and they're not expecting your email, they will do with that email exactly the same as what you would do with an email like that, and they will delete it. And it's a bit like flyers. I suppose you throw enough at the wall, you hope something sticks. You have to pick up the phone. You've got to contact people and then send them information. And I have some really strict rules when it comes to sending people information, and that is in this form of little tips. And those tips are, if you speak to someone in a business and you say to them, I work for and I'm talking to you about this, they might turn around and say, oh, can you send me something? Well, yes, send them something because they've invited you to. But when you send the email, sending them stuff, put in there requested information in the subject line. By putting requested information in there will help to stimulate them. If they need to do something as a result of reading it, and they know they do as a result of that call, put the words action required. And that will stimulate them to know they have to do something. And if they have to get back to you on something, put response required. And then they know they've got to reply to you. And for some reason, I find that those words in the subject line stop it going into spam as well. I don't know how robust that is, but I have found that people have found that they do end up getting my emails, which is quite nice. But only send something once somebody has been spoken to. Don't just blanket people, because very little will come back. But it's the cold calling. And when we look at the psychology behind it, there's a lot written on sales call reluctance. When we were little, when we were all kids, we were probably told not to talk to strangers. And we weren't told to answer back to people. So as such, we carry this belief with us in our adult lives, because we feel if we talk to strangers, something bad's going to happen, or we're told don't answer back to people who are more important or older than you. So as such, when we call and cold call people, we're ringing people who we believe are going to be too busy to talk to us, too important, or they're frightened, we were frightened they're going to hurt us in some way by being rude. So it stops us picking up the phone, and that's the biggest challenge. But I always say to people, what's the worst thing someone's going to say to you? No. Yeah, no, so just say, okay, fine, thank you, bye. That's all you got to do. Anything else? You had a question, didn't you? Yeah, Russell.
Oh, hold on, Russell.
Thank you. Yeah, question from the Salisbury Centre.
Hello, Salisbury.
How much of being a good manager can be taught, and how much of it is inherently natural in some people?
There are natural leadership and management qualities in people who like to be able to do things, take control of things. There are people out there. But management processes that are effective, that are robust, that are legal, and that are recognised need to be taught, because those are the ones that protect. A natural instinct and aptitude for management is a great starting point, but that doesn't mean you have all the tools and techniques in place. It probably means you're closer to being a bit more of a leader as well. But I believe that ultimately a lot of managers who believe they're good managers lack some of these processes, which ultimately can seem really boring, because they look at them and they think, this is so dull, I don't want to do that. I just want to get on and do my job. But you know what, when it comes to management, usually all this stuff contributes to about 5% of the time that you need to manage, actually do the management bit. But get that 5% right, then that will impact on the 95% of the time when you actually still need to just get on with your job. And that's where it will protect you. So, Salisbury, that's what I think, rightly or wrong.
Bit of a follow-up to that one. Obviously, we're working with a lot of entrepreneurs, and this style of management is the last thing that's on their mind. How do you persuade them that they need to be going down this route?
The way that you persuade them is to say, it's great that you're an entrepreneur, and a lot of these entrepreneurs can be very young as well. They're just out, they've got this fantastic money-making idea or this fantastic business venture, which is great, but they need the processes. And the processes, ultimately, as a persuasion tool, will protect their business. If we're passionate about our business, we will protect it, won't we? We love our business, that's what we want. And there's no way we'll see our businesses hurt. This type of technique, this type of process will help to protect the business. And I think as long as you can protect the business in the right way, then that's all the persuasion you need. Hello.
It's Wafa Powell, Don't Sell Flavors. As a person who works from home and on my own,
Yes.
I've got the passion, I've got the drive. The management is a big thing on my own. So I have lots of lists on my cupboards, on my fridge, everywhere.
Me too.
And I always end up doing the things I like to do more than the things I should do.
Yes.
Is there a formula, simple formula, to help? Because from home, it's not like in an office. You haven't got time scale to stick to.
Right.
No one to answer to, except work, of course. So what would be the best advice to I think a formula. I'm asking for something to make things easy, to wake up in the morning and think as you have to do this and this. It doesn't work for me. Is there any way to do it, really?
The way that I do it, because I work on my own a lot as well, is to use that formula I gave you there. I just take the number formula, and when I look at my to-do list, which I tend to do the night before, so that when I finish, I plan my next day, I come down in the morning, I know that I've got some tasks there that have got a higher number, and they have to be done, because in the end of my day, I've worked out what the priority is. And I find, for me, that ultimately sterilizing a task with a number helps to prioritize and get me working to what needs to be done rather than what I want to be done. I suppose there is a balance to that, in that sometimes there's no harm if you've got time to do stuff that you want to do, because you should enjoy what you do, but that will come at a cost, and it will make that number go up the next day if you're putting something off. So I just find that my number system works very, very well. Anything else? Oh, hello.
So what's the biggest challenge that you faced in the setup for your business, and how did you overcome that within self-management?
Basically, the biggest challenge was keeping with the discipline side of things, ultimately. It was being self-disciplined. And the thing that I needed to do very quickly was to keep into the work frame of mind, to make sure that everything I did when I was employed by an employer, the getting up at a certain time, the doing my working day, taking regular breaks, structuring my day, was in place. And that was quite a challenge initially, because you thought, well, I'm doing it for myself now. I'm gonna just kick back, have a bit of breakfast, sit out on the terrace, do nice things. But actually, once you get that discipline in place, everything else seems to fall into place. And I am quite a control freak kind of person. I like things done in certain ways. So I suppose that falls in my favor. But initially, it was about, well, I work for myself now. I can do whatever I want. And you hear people who say, when you run your own business, you've got your perfect work-life balance, haven't you? You're at home all the time, you can just kick back, pop a wash on, watch a bit of telly, you know, you can do all those things. I don't know about you, but since working for myself, I'm working harder and longer than I ever worked for an employee, and I thought as an employer, and I was working hard then. But it is the discipline, the self-discipline was the challenge. But once it becomes habit, then that's fine. And now it is habit, and it's just about keeping going. I suppose I always worry about the pipeline as well. I always think, oh my God, it's all going to go wrong, and then I'm going to have to go and find another job. But that fear keeps me motivated, because I believe that ultimately if you're motivated by fear that you could lose things very quickly, you know, you hear people who are homeless perhaps, don't you, and their story is that they lost their job, their marriage broke down, and then they lost their home, and that's it, all went wrong. I always have that extreme fear, and that's what keeps me going. So that creates the discipline. I know it's extreme, but it's got to keep going. You just sit there and I don't want it to happen, I don't want it to happen. So you just do it. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good one. Thank you. You're all gonna lose.